Yeah, morning, everyone. I feel like there's something of a dichotomy in the world, right? On one hand, we're talking about AI and Gen AI. We're seeing amazing leaps forward. So NVIDIA have just launched the new Blackwell B200 chip that's going to be 25 times faster, 25 times cheaper, and 25 times less energy consuming than their old H100, right? We've all probably seen the pictures of GPT-4o, the latest release. I also call it a GPT-4o, my OMG, which alleges it can have a conversation and allow you real-time to take feedback and interact, right? Even in terms of job interviews. But it doesn't necessarily feel like the rubber's hit the road around accounts payable specifically, right? And some of the interaction in our area. So I've got three guests that we'll introduce to talk about this topic today. I've got Gabriela Stankanova from Kimberly-Clark, Sebastian Schweitzer from Fresenius Kabi, and Tom Bangemann from SSON. Maybe you'll first start with an introduction of you and a little bit about your GBS organization, Gabriela.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Gabriela from Kimberly-Clark. Our company was founded in the end of 19th century. So 2 years ago, we celebrated 150 years. So this is how old our company is. And we operate in 34 countries, and our products are sold in 175 countries. And one of our brands, and I'm sure you know them, I'm sure all of you, one way or another, use our KC products. Huggies for our babies, Kleenex, tissue. And I think, today I am the second time on the stage, Kimberly-Clark second time on the stage, because I think Roderick yesterday brought the toilet paper, which is also Kimberly-Clark. So, talking about the numbers, 2023, 20 billion in revenue. Just giving a little bit more information by my organization. I am leading GBS Source to Pay organization across the globe. So my role is operation and strategy. My boss used to call me GPO, even if that's not in my title. So it's a different model of the GPO we have in our organization compared to others. And I'm actually sitting on the procurement leadership team. Dotted line reporting to CPO. GBS is part of the procurement strategy for next 3 years, like a collaboration and reducing complexity, and also how we are seen as an organization for the stakeholders. And now talking about accounts payable, my team, I have 500 people across the globe, 4 captive locations, 1 gem-packed in India supporting North America accounts payable operation. And my team processes around 2 million invoices per year, worth of $15 billion. And I have 95% paid on time across the globe. So I'm super proud of the team. And 80%,
Exactly.
Thank you. That was the number I was waiting for to share with all of you guys. So we can make it, Even for EMEA, last month for Israel, we crossed 90%, which is awesome, right? Paid on time. And 80% of those invoices are processed, 70% are processed electronically, and 80% out of electronic is touchless. Yeah, so I think I'm done with the numbers.
Yeah, it's good.
Pleasure to be here with you.
Sebastian.
Well, Gabriela, I'm not going to go into our numbers then. No, good morning, everyone. My name is Sebastian. I work for Fresenius Kabi. We are a healthcare company, and you may not know it, but I'm pretty sure every one of you in the room has had a contact with at least one of our products. It's basically 3 things. One, it's a pharma portfolio of medications. 2, it's about nutrition. So if you are if you ever find yourself in the situation to require enteral or parenteral nutrition, then we are there for you. And number 3 is about medical devices, medical technology, and let's say hardware. So if you've ever donated blood, then there's a 7 out of 10 chance that the blood will have been stored in one of our bags. And by the way, since I can't compete on numbers, if you haven't donated blood recently, go for it, please. It's needed. Yeah? On a side note, I am the head of process management, so that includes especially the finance arena, so source to pay, order to cash, record to report, T&E, and a few others.
Super. Tom?
I think I've met most of you yesterday. So Tom Bangemann, Head of Research, SSON. My on-time payment quote is 100%. I pay everything on time. And I use only e-payments, 100%. So I think I'm pretty good at that.
Super. Yeah, and Bob Booth, I'm the professional services lead at Basware, the invoice automation leader. So we'll start with some context. So just think about some of the challenges we face in accounts payable, and then maybe some of the areas where we started to see some improvements from AI and automation perspective. Maybe as you kind of own the strategy for all source to pay, Gabriele, just lead us off with your thoughts.
You would tend to believe that, with 95% paid on time, not much, right? You can focus on, but, basically our largest operation is in North America. So North America is pretty straightforward, right? So when you start looking at the EMEA and Asia Pac locations, those are the complexity, a part of the obvious Brazil, for example, China, and so on. So we, within our source to pay strategic roadmap, and especially looking at accounts payable, because I manage source to pay, I started to look at what is happening before the invoice arrives. Yeah, because this is as much as you can see and then automate. So how do you make sure that the inputs are actually driving the output for accounts payable? But talking about the challenges, I think one of the biggest challenge today, what I see, and also what my organization face in accounts payable, is the implementation of the governmental electronic portals that are happening across the globe, which, all of them are different. So you look at the implementation, and because it's different, you need to look at whether that's influencing your automation already, right? So that's probably one of the very big challenges we are facing now. So I already reduced a lot of, I delivered a lot of efficiency in my organization, and now it almost feels like I need to add more people to be able to, manage the portals, right? So I would say, end-to-end process, and then on accounts payable side, that would be the one which it's a big challenge for us now.
Absolutely. Sebastian, on your side.
For us, the key challenge is master data. Yeah, that probably rings a bell with many of you, but for us having, or rather not having consistent master data, not only for the source to pay and accounts payable area, is right now the single biggest issue. And if, as an opener for anyone in the audience, if there is a way to use Gen AI to help us really get our master data into pitch perfect order and do that on a outcome-based pricing, let's talk.
And so how have you gone about solving some of your challenges with AI or Gen AI, Sebastian?
We are in the very, very early stages. I know Gen AI is all the rage now, and from my personal perception, I'm not quite sure yet how much of it is still hype and how much of it is really reality. So we launched our own small first test balloon a few months ago, and we did something very, very simple. So we took our global and local travel policies. Yeah, and we used the ChatGPT 3.5 to put that into a very simple chatbot for all the employees to be able to ask, hey, what am I allowed to book? What's the per diem, whatever. It worked a charm. So the technology-wise execution, it took us longer than expected, but it worked. Adoption rate by employees was actually negligible, which is probably not a case of technology. It's a case of employees not caring. But again, different story. But the thing is, as a test balloon, it worked a charm.
And Gabriele, I think you've done some work at Kimberly-Clark around conversation as well. How's that Can you give us some examples of how your project's gone?
So I would like to probably challenge Sebastian a little bit. We were talking
Please
about
do.
that, before the panel, because, okay, so that's awesome. 3 weeks ago, I received a call from a very senior Kimberly-Clark leader asking me the question, hey, Gabriela, can you please make sure that I don't receive notification from Concur to approve expenses? And I was like, okay. So it follows the policy. Can you change the policy? Can you implement an AI that will help to, automate? So Sebastian, that's your next steps, I guess, and then you will share with me how did you implement the Gen AI for this one.
Which obviously opens the question, just as you rightly said, especially being a German company, come on, there's going to be some prejudice around it. How much of that risk are we putting into machine hands? But that's a different story.
Sure.
Yeah?
But, coming back to what we do at Kimberly-Clark, accounts payable is not just about invoice posting. Accounts payable, it's a lot about managing stakeholders and user experience and different types of source-to-pay queries, because accounts payable is the process that touches the biggest portion of every single organization. People get very upset, excited about, my most paid, can I buy this, and so on. So what we did, because we just implemented Coupa in North America and EMEA, and we do that across the globe. What we did, we implemented like a customer service chatbot that is, and we went live recently 3 weeks ago, and I'm super excited about that one, because it is simultaneously translating, when somebody writes up, it's simultaneously translating the question, and it also, seeks for different information and prepares the answer. And I tested that myself. I asked a simple question about vendor master, right? That's also another very exciting, area. And I asked the same question one day, and after 2 days, and I already received additional information from the chatbot. So it's awesome. I love it. And when my CFO asked me, so tell me what is the benefit, financial benefit, and I actually told him it's a cost avoidance, because I didn't have to hire an army of people that would be replying to your source-to-pay queries. Yeah, so that's what we did, and we are developing live chat and so on. So pretty awesome.
That's good. And Tom, what does the research tell us about this topic of AI application?
So we did obviously a piece of research on Gen AI last year, also like on every relevant topic. One thing I thought was particularly funny when we were doing this research, there was a Forbes article out there, I don't know if anybody read it, and it said that 67% of board members think they are advanced or expert in Gen AI. So talking about hallucinations, but it wasn't the machine, okay? But on the positive side, I think it's great that they all show interest and believe that there's something in it. So that was very positive. It was actually very hard to find a lot of use cases or good examples. Most things that you find are solutions where companies try to build sort of their own internal GPT, some sort of large language model that they use in some area. It's typically run by IT and GBS together, so that would be 57% if you're into numbers. And the biggest problem is, as I explained yesterday briefly, that the skills are missing and you need to train people to actually get on with this topic. What I thought was interesting is that if you remember when we had RPA and robotics come around, we had all these articles that 30% of people are going to be unemployed and there's going to be chaos and whatever. For some reason, that doesn't seem to be the expectation now. So there was only 5% who thought that it's risky, and also only 5% thought that it's not critical. So while we are talking about a lot of hype, obviously also, there seems to be a very positive basic sentiment in terms of expectations on Gen AI. And then in terms of the services that people are doing, I mean, there's not many examples, but BI and analytics is 68%, customer service is 62%, and knowledge management 55%. So those are by far the three areas where you find most examples. You would, of course, find coding and all these other things too, but those would be the things that we got out of the Gen AI research.
Yeah, and I think your challenge around master data, Sebastian, is interesting, because actually there's a ton of purchase order information where the master data items are normally quite wrong, and then there's a ton of information coming from invoices And somehow that doesn't seem like a very complicated challenge to tie those two things up. I'm not quite ready to take fees at risk against it, but it feels like a really obvious area for using AI. So, and what are some of the, maybe just come to you, Sebastian, what are some of the technologies that you're seeing used in your business to solve this?
First of all, I think with impeccable timing, my mobile is written. No, wasn't mine. Sorry. What was the question again?
Yeah, what technologies are being used by across GBS, right, in your wider role to solve some of these efficiency and effectiveness opportunities?
Okay, so for us in our current situation, first of all, we are privileged that GBS is indeed treated as a source of innovation and that this is accepted. We are also partnering very, very close with our IT organization, and we are fortunate enough that it is accepted by now and indeed expected from the GBS to go out to the business to come with new proposals and insights and solutions. I can tell you that wasn't always the case. So that's one. When it comes to the technology, we are having currently so we're an SAP company. We're having some of the usual, I would call them Azure contracts in the background too. We are using currently for now the ChatGPT 3.5 engine in the background and experimenting with that. But I guess the jury is still out how good that arrangement really is. Plus, you said it in the intro. The speed of evolution on that front is right now probably a bit faster than our adoption speed, which gives us quite some hefty things to think about.
And back over to you, Gabriella. Was your chatbot a business-led or IT-led, or is there some sort of sense what the mix looked like?
Yeah, I think, the obvious answer is it needs to be co-owned by business, IT, and the GBS, right? Even the GBS is leading the implementation, and the IT obviously leading the technology implementation, and, we need to bring the business process. My ex-boss used to say, and I'm going to try to remember this, sentence, like OP plus NT equals to VE OP, like an old process plus new technology equals to very expensive old process, yeah? So I think, that's one of those things that you always need to take into consideration. Before you implement technology, you need to look at the business process. Of course, AI can help because they can find the information here and there, but this is, if you don't have like a good base, it's going to be very difficult to automate. Yeah, so from that perspective, the way we look at, you cannot have digital transformation being led by IT. You need to have the business process knowledge and the functional expertise as well to drive the overall transformation.
Absolutely. Tom, what does the research tell us?
Obviously, we also did a piece with you guys in January, I think it was, just recently on accounts payable. Actually, I got a lot of people asking me, why do you guys need to run research on accounts payable all the time? Isn't that sort of a process that everybody's optimized and done with? We're doing that 30 plus years, and it was the first thing in scope of GBS. Interestingly, we had maturity levels high or higher for only 36%, and in automation, only 6% thought that they're high or expert in automation. So despite all that time that we have had to automate, there's obviously all kinds of new challenges that need to be responded to, and therefore the automation level is not as high as it could be. So there's still work to be done. The number one problem is standardization, or the lack of standardization. So people are fighting with exceptions. So what would be interesting, for example, to see is whether these new technologies can do something about that. Do we actually need to standardize, or can we solve the issue somehow otherwise? For me, interesting was funding is actually mostly in place. So most companies said they would have funding. It might be a question of priorities, of course, but it was not like they can't do anything ever. What has changed is the view of what the target of this whole automation process is. It used to be cost. And now it is a broader set of targets where working capital is number one. And then the other targets would be things like value, risk, service, and things like that. So it's a mix of different business impacts. So that would be what typically we get out of these AP research pieces every year. But these are the sort of highlights. The topics that come out for you to think about if you want to follow the research are a GPO. There's 2 people here who are GPOs or own GPOs. So that seems to still be a good concept. I know I'm repeating myself, but I still think it's a good idea. 62% said that would be the best practice to use in AP. There's obviously all these mixed targets, so you need to deal with the different targets, how to put them together. Standardization is a hindrance. In the automation area, e-invoicing and e-payments were the lowest. So workflow is actually pretty good for most people. That's not really the issue anymore. It's actually getting into this e-payments activity. And the biggest risk people saw was that if they overdo it on the working capital side, they damage the relationship with the partners. That could be a problem. So that would be sort of quick highlights of 50 pages.
Yeah, it's just interesting kind of reflecting on that from our perspective. There are definitely two headwinds in the market right now. One of them, as Gabriella said, is the PEPL legislation and all the various different portals. And the second one is this kind of wave of interest in AI that's generating conversations around, well, can we drive more efficiency or more effectiveness? And we drive clients to top quartile performance, actually with good old-fashioned deep learning, machine learning, and some good simple rule-based, when we're using Gen AI to allow us to execute on that, rather than to replace the process, which I think is quite interesting. So just casting our eyes to the future then, given the fact that if anyone goes to the Wipro stand and wants to see the future, then you'll see, you can have your photograph taken, it draws a picture of you, although sometimes it doesn't always get your age right? You drew a picture of a very old man in my case, right? So I'm not sure it was completely trustable. What's the future look like, do you think, Gabriella, 5 years out for accounts payable?
So, because we talk about, we are in the middle of, and Tom talked yesterday when we were sharing the outcome of the research, like what are the companies focusing on, right? So when you think about everybody's focusing on S4 implementation, so that's probably something that will occupy a lot of our times together with Coupa implementation. But definitely, we as a company are looking at having a corporate strategy for Gen AI across all functions, not just within the source to pay, which I'm very interested in, but also within the supply chain and also the finance as well. So I think, that's going to be one of the technology that everybody is going to include in the strategic roadmaps. And I'm supposed to do my strategic roadmap for next 10 years. Yeah, so that's the one. When, but to support the technology, I think we also, and you mentioned that as well, that a lot of companies are looking at upskilling the organization. I think we need to prepare our people for what is coming for the new technology. We cannot do these things without our people because that's the biggest asset of GBS, I would say. So that would be, one of the things I want to focus on. Yeah. So driving value for the business, making sure that our processes are well controlled and efficient, and making sure that my people are happy to work for me and with me.
And Sebastian, can you see a future where your master data is fixed?
Yes. Yeah, that I will lean with Sebastian, I'll cooperate with Sebastian on master data, standardization and harmonization, yes.
Oh dear. Do I see a future with pitch perfect master data? On average, no. Happy to stand corrected. There's a few factors that I believe are timeless classics, which will simply never change. And that includes, it doesn't matter what technology is applied or not, the concept of a deeply rooted understanding of and ownership for any given process is a must, and that will never change. And the toolkit of a GPO, however the role may be called in the future, will evolve further. Yeah? And it will require different skills, certainly, to orchestrate that new toolkit, which I'm very, very excited about. But also the discipline of putting extremely strong rigor of all parts of data in your own organization. That's again something that's not new. It's been around for I don't know how many decades, but that's something that also will never go out of fashion.
I see a future where the successful organizations will solve the data problem, they'll solve it at scale, and then they'll use that opportunity to really leverage opportunities from Gen AI. If we look at right here, right now, a different function, look at IT. A year ago, IT teams were using ChatGPT to write their code. Last week, GitHub released a new Copilot where they can plan their product, they can gather requirements, they can write the code, they can test and deploy. Right, so there's use cases being applied in parallel functions. I think we're going to see those organizations that do have the discipline and focus, have the new design-oriented roles that Simea talked about, and fix their master data problems will be at a material advantage compared to their competition. So thank you for taking the time. We're out of time. So I appreciate the time of my panel as well. Thank you.
Thank you.